This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is, locked and loaded and ready to go. How you feeling, my man? I know you're feeling a lot better than the Dolphins Nation, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine I probably am feeling better than most Dolphins fans at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, it's the choke job of choke jobs. I mean, it was as bad as it gets last week, and that was despicable. That's all I can say, my brother. And I thought they were getting ready to try to cross that kind of threshold, and they went back to being the same old Dolphins.
I watched that game until it was 42-19, whatever the hell the score was, when Baltimore scored 42 points. What was alarming to me, look, the offense didn't play well. They dropped some balls. I didn't love the plan, but I mean, defensively in that game, and I know Chubb got hurt. I get it, but Chubb got hurt at the end of that game. Like, there were guys wide open all game long. I mean, wide open. And I went back and I watched the film.
I mean, like, it was really like any quarterback could have
Like
had a
Keystone
field day.
Cops. Like joke, like almost like a joke. I mean, it was. I went back and I did my all 22 piece I do every Wednesday for Sports Illustrated. I don't know if it's up yet. It'll be up this afternoon. And I broke down the Zay Flowers touchdown, the 75-yarder. And if you watch that play, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple route combination. I mean, it is just Flowers goes in motion. He runs a go down the right side. The Dolphins are in quarters. Eli Apple's got him all day long. I mean, your only job on that play is to watch your quarter of the field and not get beat deep. And Eli Apple ends up trying to guard Isaiah Likely, who's standing in between the hash marks. And I mean, it's pitch and catch. Like a college quarterback throws that for a 75-yard touchdown. And I'm not taking anything away from Omar. He was great. But, like, the Dolphins made that so easy.
The whole game.
And now you look at this Bills game and go, okay, well, is it going to change or is it going to get worse because Chubb's not playing and Howard's not playing and so on and so forth?
Yeah. Let me ask you something, because you're a KC guy. Did Tyreek drop touchdowns often in Kansas City? Because he drops them here.
I don't remember him doing that. I mean, God knows I'm sure it happened here and there, but I don't
like, it happens often here.
Yeah, I don't ever remember that being like a talking point.
Well, here's my talking point. Mike McDaniel. And my problem is, while I love his offensive mind and he knows quarterbacks, and clearly he and his staff really know offensive linemen, because they've done a marvelous job with, we've got like 10, 11, 12 deep at times.
Right.
And they can run the ball and do things even with a backup. So there's a lot of things to like about him. But hey, I want to be your friend, coach. You also create an atmosphere, and it's interesting. I'll talk about it later, but I'm going to mention it here in your segment. There's a part in Hard Knocks where Tyreek goes to his teammate this past week. It played last night, and he says, if you make a mistake, fuck it. I've been around for a long time. I don't think if you play for Don Shula or Pat Riley or Eric Spoelstra, you're going to say, well, if I make a mistake, fuck it.
Yeah, well, you would say that
no. And so you've had this, laissez-faire attitude, this I want to be your friend and everything is all right and everything's positive and everything. And, there has to be a fine line of ball busting also along the way. And there has to be a level of respect. And I'm wondering if Mike McDaniel's style is, while it's fun for us, I don't know if it creates the discipline you need, because this is a team that has pre-snap penalties. That they've only won one challenge in 2 years. You do know that, right?
I actually didn't know that. That's crazy.
It's 2 for 14, I think it is.
That's crazy.
But one of them was by accident, because they had a guy running off the field on a special teams play, and the referees threw the flag, assuming it was a 12th man. Mike McDaniel challenged it, but because he kept the special teams coach, which he should have fired last year, Danny Crossman, that was the 11th man that was running off the field.
Okay.
So the incompetence of
Well-
the special teams coach allowed Mike McDaniel to win his second challenge. And his only challenge he's won this year, by the way. Okay, so the only challenge he won this year was by mistake, by incompetence of his coach. And so there's a lot of mistakes going on this team, from drop passes to pre-snap penalties to not getting plays in on time. The 2-minute warning this past week. Like, yo, bro, why are you rushing this play? What are you doing? You're on their 42. Why are you rushing to get a playoff in the 2-minute and 3-second mark? Let the clock end, take advantage of that 2-minute warning, wait. You got play. What are you doing? Hurrying up to give Lamar Jackson the ball back? And so
Well,
there's a lot of shit that goes on every game, and it's been going on for 2 years now. And I
Yeah.
think he has to grow up as a head coach, not the play caller, the head
Well,
coach.
he does, but he also is who he is, and that's why everybody loves him when they're scoring 70 points against Denver, because he's fun and he wears nice watches and he doesn't have a hair out of place and he's funny at the press conferences. And look, that's all great until you get your ass kicked. Then it's not so funny anymore. And I got to tell you, and I'm not saying he's this coach because he's not this coach. He's a lot better than this coach. But like the first year Brendan Staley was in Los Angeles, there was a whole lot of that. Like, hey, he gives great answers, and he's a cool guy, and he'd be fun to hang out with at a bar. And it's like, yeah, that's great until he goes for it on 4th and 2 at his own 12-yard line. Then it's not so funny anymore. Look, McDaniel is a good football coach. The problem with McDaniel, in my opinion, is sometimes he's too cute for his own good. Like this game against Buffalo. Okay, for an example. I remember, we've done this spot now for a few years. I remember last year when they were in Buffalo, we both talked about the fact going into that game, they've got to run the ball in this football game. They have to run the ball. And they ran with unbelievable success and then stopped doing it and completely went away from it. This weekend, if they're going to win this game, they're going to run the football. That's how they're going to win this game. Buffalo is 29th in the league in yards per carry against. They have been a sieve. If you're going to run the ball and run it effectively, they're a great team to do it against. And you've got Achane, you got Mostert. That's how you do it. If he tries to throw the ball 45 times in this game, they're losing. I promise you they're losing. Like, that's not the recipe to win this football game. But with McDaniel, sometimes he gets in these modes where he just puts blinders on. And it's just, this is how I'm going to play. And I don't care what anybody else thinks about it. This is how I'm going to do it. That being said, when you get beat the way they got beat in Baltimore, that is a collective failure. That team was a disaster that day. I mean, there is no way around it. Nobody played well. Nobody. So now, look, this is a gut check. You're going to make the playoffs. If you win this game, you're the number 2 seed in the conference. You will have a very advantageous first-round matchup, probably against Pittsburgh. And then you'll have a second-round matchup that, okay, maybe it's against, I don't know, Kansas City, probably 2-3 matchup. Like, fine. You'll take your chances in that game. If you lose, you've blown the division, you've lost 2 straight, and you got to go to Arrowhead in the wild card round. And the Chiefs are not infallible. God knows Miami could go in there and beat the Chiefs. But like,
they actually have. I think they have a better chance of beating the Chiefs than they do the Bills. Actually, to be quite honest, I think.
So I never thought about it. It's interesting.
Because I would get Jalen Ramsey and put
Maybe.
him on Rashee Rice, and then try to bracket Kelsey, and then try to do my best the rest of the way.
Hey, listen, that game they certainly could win it. I actually like thinking about it because I knew we'd do this.
I'm terrified of this game, dude. Like, I'm terrified. Like, I think they're going to get walloped.
I am picking Buffalo to win the game. If I'm the Dolphins, what I would do in this game is I'd put Ramsey on Diggs, and I would put a safety over the top of Davis the entire game and beat me anywhere else. I don't care. I mean, they don't have any other receiver who scares you. The tight end, I mean, Kincaid's a good player, but I don't think he's going to destroy the game. Like, beat me anywhere. I mean, Diggs has not had 100 yards receiving since the beginning of October. I mean, he's been awful down the stretch. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm just saying, I'll give you these 12-play drives, and I'm going to go ahead and bet that Josh Allen is not patient enough to take them. That would be my gamble in this game. But, listen, the Bills have beaten up the Dolphins in the recent years. They just have. So what do you have? I mean, if you're the Dolphins, like it's a gut check. What do you have? What do you
Right.
have in you? And maybe it's just that the defense is just worn out at this point, and Chubb's out, and Howard's gone. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe against an Allen, maybe against the Mahomes, that's going to kill you. But I think that's how you got to play. And offensively, they got to run the football. If they don't run the football in this game, they're going to get smoked.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And the other thing that I've been talking about is I haven't seen improvement that much in coaching from McDaniel from the first year to the second year. The only thing I do give him credit for that he was able to stick more to the run. There were still moments where he abandoned it this year, but nearly not as much as he did last year, where he really abandoned it a lot of times. And you're like, yo, dude, you average over 4.5 yards a carry, 5 yards.
Right.
What are you doing? In that Buffalo game you talked about, they were averaging 7 yards a carry.
Yep.
And they abandoned the run. 7 yards a carry. That's insanity to do that. So this is what I said, okay? No, nothing about firing because I like him. I want him to succeed. But here's my problem. The only reason you've improved this year in wins is because Tua's healthy. That's the only reason. It's not really because you're that much greater of a coach from last year to this year. You're making all the same mistakes over and over again. If he continues to make the same mistakes over and over again, and he, they sputtered at the end last year, but it was understandable with the injuries. This year you have more injuries, but you do have your quarterback, and you're sputtering again because think about it. If you lose this week, you're 2-3 in your finish.
Right.
If you lose to Kansas City, it's a 2-4 finish. Okay. If you go through next year and you do the same kind of stuff, it's a hot seat for him. I guarantee you by the end of the year, fans and media will be saying, yeah, this is not the guy, man. The team's talented and he's not getting the max out of it. Do you agree or disagree on that?
I don't think he's going to get fired.
No. But hot seat at the end of
Maybe.
next
I
year.
think people will be frustrated if
Yeah.
that happens. I think they'll be frustrated. I think he's done a good enough job. And it's easier sometimes to forget after recent history. The Dolphins have been a tire fire for 20 years. So McDaniel's come in, done a nice job, right? I mean, I remember saying that same thing, when, early this year when Dable, the Giants had all these issues. And people like, they're going to fire him. Like, they're not going to fire him. Like, they started the playoffs last year. McDaniel, I think, has done a good job. My biggest concern with McDaniel, like I said, is just there are times when you watch him,
Game management.
Look, man, this just isn't that hard. Like, this is the easy part. Your scheme's great. That's the hard part. Like, the easy part's like, hey, how do I manage the game? Now, that being said, Andy Reid's going to walk into Canton. It took him 25 years to learn how to manage a clock. Okay. Because now he's pretty good at it. When he got to Kansas City, my God, man.
In Philly, he was terrible.
Even the first half of his tenure with the Chiefs, I mean, there would be times where they'd blow every time out they had in the third quarter. They very, very rarely struggle with that now. But when he first was there, oh my God, they did it all the time. But, this is, to the point we were talking about. The Dolphins.
By the way, that you should be used to that. You had Herm Edwards there.
I don't want to talk about that. Like the
you and I have never talked about that.
I can't talk about Herm Edwards ever. One of the more embarrassing periods of my life.
Well, you got to admit, when we talk about clock management, he might be the king of. Wow, he is terrible with clock management.
Yeah, and you know what? That was like the 12th biggest problem he had. Yeah. And then they replaced him with Todd Haley, who actually comparatively was like a beacon of shining light. And then they replaced him with Romeo Crennel, who gave us the worst year of coaching I've ever seen in my life. I remember there was a press conference after they lost. I mean, they were 2-14, so they lost every game. And some reporter asked him why Jamal Charles only carried the ball 4 times. And he looked down at the stat sheet and was like, yeah, that's not good. It's like, it's going to be a long year. But in any event,
Romeo was just a coordinator.
He was a great coordinator, but couldn't coach.
Never
but listen, the point with the Dolphins is like they lead the league alongside Baltimore in rushing touchdowns, 26, and yards per carry at 5. And yet, Baltimore this year, number 1 in rushing attempts. Miami is 14th. And they've led tons of these games. Like, run the ball. But like all these nerds who are like, analytics tell you should throw 60 times. No, like you need to run the ball. And in this football game on Sunday, they've got to run the ball. They've got to be willing to just say, look, we're going to shorten the game. We're going to help our defense. We're going to get Tua in these advantageous spots. We can really hit them with some big play action passes. Like that has to be the way you play in this football game. And if McDaniel sits there and they throw the ball 40 times, they're going to get smoked. That's happening. I mean, it just, you can't. Now, the one caveat I will say, Josh Allen, everybody's talking about the Bills as this absolute rolling machine at the moment. Josh Allen has been awful for a month straight. Like, if you look at Josh Allen's numbers the last 4 games, he was hideous against New England. Had an interception, completed half his passes. The Cowboys game, as great as they were collectively, he threw for 95 yards, completed less than half his passes. Against Kansas City, he threw for 5.5 yards per attempt and had a pick. And against the Chargers, it took a last-second comeback to beat Easton Stick. Like, this is not exactly a team that's just on fire at the moment. So I could, as much as we've sat here and talked about the Dolphins and what they got to do, I got to be honest with you. I could also see a scenario where the Dolphins go in there and just beat the daylights out of them because the Dolphins are keyed up to the hilt for this game. And Allen throws 2 picks, and Diggs has 30 yards receiving, and Gabe Davis has 1 catch. I mean, that also would kind of track with all the things that have gone on in the last month or so with Buffalo.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. All right. Lions. I mean, first of all, the league and the whole thing with checking in with the players and the video looked kind of fishy, and I'm not exactly sure. Still, I don't know what the hell really happened there, and if the referee was confused, because that could happen too. But in the end, take the point, bro.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Take the point. You know what I mean? This week with the Dolphins, midway through the 3rd quarter, you're down by a shit ton of points. You score a touchdown, you go right away for the 2-point conversion. It's like, yo, dude, you don't need that 2-pointer right now. If you fail, you're making the hole again bigger for you for no reason. You got plenty of take the point right now. The week before against Dallas, he chooses not to do the field goal on 4th down, goes for it. No 3 points. At the end of the Dallas game, you need that final drive and those 3 points in order to win the game where you would have had those 3 points, in the bag. I don't know. There's this thing now in the league where screw it. I'm just going to go for it all the time. And
right.
I'm not sure that puts you, I'm not saying every scenario calls for it, but there are scenarios where it's obvious. McDaniel, take the 3 points. Dan Campbell, bro, the football gods are telling you down after down, this is not a good idea. Dude, it's like watching Tin Cup all over again.
It's look, I agree wholeheartedly that there is this epidemic now in the NFL where you just think, hey, it's 4th and 6, might as well just go for it at the 20. And then these teams lose by a field goal. And it's like, well, you can't blame that. That's just an aggressive decision. Sure, I can. If you have a yellow light and you could stop, but you're like, you know what? I'm good. I think I can make it. And then you go through and you get hit by a tractor trailer. Well, guess what? Like, that was an aggressive decision that didn't work out so well. Like, that's on you, man. Stop at the yellow light. At some point, I do think there are times, like, I don't mind them going for 2 initially. Okay, you have momentum. You want to try to get the win. It's on the road. Cool. When you get back up to the 7-yard line, kick the extra point, bro. Just kick it. Like, what are we doing here? I like Dan Campbell a lot. I think he's a very good coach. But, like, at some point, I feel like you're just trying to almost prove yourself. Like, we're not going to back down. We're not going to back down. Okay, great. Now you're going to lose because you're trying to get 7 yards on a play, and there's not a team in the league that averages 7 yards per play. So, like, I don't think it makes sense. You see some of these coaches. Now, listen, I will say this. If you have a team that maybe needs a spark, you got to get going. Okay, I get it. There's certain things to factor in. But like McDaniel in that Dallas game, just kick it. Just get 3 points. Like you're pro, and then to throw a fade to Cedric Wilson is just, I mean, come on. Like, if you're gonna do that, good Lord, man. I mean, throw to Tyreek. Like, have your best play for him. But I agree. I think there's a lot of times now in the NFL, It's funny. We went from in the 90s where if it was 4th and 1 at the 38, it was like, send on the punt team. That's it. Like, can't possibly pick this up. To now, it's 4th and 12 at midfield, and guys like, I don't know, they leave the offense on, see what happens. Like, yes, I think sometimes situational football has gone out the window in the sake of just being aggressive, which I think in a lot of cases is just being dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. It's just it's such an odd thing to watch the way they just give up easy points that are there for you, and then you're just making it that much harder on your team. And then the Lions are a perfect example. Now you find yourself pointing fingers at the referees and all that when, dude, you had the fate in your own hands. You could have taken the point, go to overtime, and take your chances, and you win that damn game,
Right.
and then it's you move on instead, and you got your win. It's just something that I really don't understand overall. So, who are your favorites right now?
Well, I mean, right now it's got to be Baltimore and San Francisco. I mean, it has to be. I mean, Baltimore, to their credit, has beaten the absolute hell out of 4 or 5 different teams that are going to make the playoffs. I mean, they've just killed them. So I would say it's Baltimore and San Francisco. I will say this though: I have very little faith. Like, if you said to me, "Would you bet $100 to win $100 that that's going to be the Super Bowl?" No, I
No shot.
wouldn't. I
No shot.
mean, I don't think they're both going to get there. One of them probably does, and I'd have more faith in the Niners to do it. I know
That's
that drives Ravens fans crazy, and they'd sit there and go, "Come on, did you just see this game? See the Niners game?" I get it.
it's just a sandlot form of football that I just don't think will
And
end up winning in the
I
playoffs.
just my opinion is, look, do I think the Ravens right now are the best team in the AFC? Yeah, I do. Do I also think that I've seen this movie before with the Ravens? Yeah, I have. And I wouldn't be shocked at all. Like, the only caveat would be right now, who are you ultra confident in going in there and beating them? I mean, you can't say the Dolphins after that game.
No, God,
I
no.
mean, is it
Plus, they're
Buffalo?
too injured now. Plus, they're way
Yeah.
too injured now.
I mean, is
Ready.
it Buffalo? Maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like,
Buffalo would be one of them for sure.
you know,
KC has the defense.
that's the thing. I mean,
They
Kansas
don't have
City.
the offense, but they have the
I
defense.
mean, could
That's the
Kansas City
problem.
go in there and beat them 20-17? Yeah,
Right,
they could.
right. It
I
has
mean,
to be
look,
an ugly game.
the
Yes.
feather in the cap of the Chiefs is that they've been there a million times, and if they get into a game that's tight in the fourth quarter, they know how to win it. They
No, they
just
can
do.
play defense. Your
Yeah,
team
I
can
mean,
play defense.
th you know
I don't trust your offense.
oh, nobody does.
That's my problem with Kansas City right now. That's their bugaboo. They have a championship defense.
Yes.
They don't have a championship offense.
No question. And I think, look, I mean, to me in the AFC, you've got to say it's Baltimore. I'm not the biggest believer in the world in Cleveland. Like, I get it. It's a fun story. But, like, I will
They're
say, though,
foundationally, they're
yes,
exceptional.
the question for me
You
with
got the
Flacco
running
is, like,
game, you got the offensive line, you got the defense.
right.
The
I
QB
wouldn't, I
just
wouldn't,
has to not screw it up, and you're kinda, like, competitive in any game with
I
Cleveland.
agree. I think Cleveland, by the way, for the record, I think Cleveland's going to win its
Dangerous.
wild card game. I think they're going to beat whoever comes out of the South. I think they can go to, like, let's just play it. So if you have a scenario here where, let's say Miami wins on Sunday night, okay, and they play Pittsburgh in the first round, I think Miami will kill Pittsburgh, okay? And I think the Chiefs will kill either Indianapolis or Houston. I just, in a playoff game at Arrowhead, I shouldn't say they kill them. I think they beat them. If that happens and Cleveland wins, Cleveland's going to Baltimore, which would be Joe Flacco in Baltimore. It'd be fascinating. And then
Yeah.
Kansas City and Miami having a rematch from, October, November. It would be interesting. I mean, the AFC to me, the biggest thing with Baltimore is, can anybody get out in front of them? That's the thing. I mean,
Right.
Baltimore's a totally different team when you can get up on them. You can take away a lot of what they do. The same true of the Niners. But if they get in front of you, you got a problem. And, they certainly have been a problem for many weeks now.
They split with Baltimore. They lost 28-3 the first matchup in
Yes.
week 1,
Yep.
and then week 2, Cleveland handed them where the hell is it? I just saw it right now. They handed them a
November.
33-31 defeat. It was a close game in that one.
Well, and
Watson actually won that game.
Well, and they were trailing significantly in that game. They came back and won. The first game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson started for the Browns.
Right.
So they
Yeah,
were,
yeah, Cleveland outscored them 16-7 in the fourth
yeah,
quarter.
yeah. No, Baltimore was up like double digits in the second half of that game.
I see, like, let me tell you something. I see a lot of Cleveland in your team in Kansas City. they both have excellent defenses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really about the offense kind of bailing them out. And Cleveland's offense actually is a little better than Kansas City's, except Kansas City has the quarterback.
I was going to say, I just trust the quarterback a little bit more.
Right. You trust the quarterback a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But Cleveland's weapons and their offensive line and everything, that combination is better there. The thing is, with Flacco, while you trust Mahomes, Flacco is still a veteran who doesn't give a shit, dude.
No,
That's the beauty of this.
He's a great story.
Right. He is playing looser than anyone in the NFL because he doesn't care, dude. He's not even supposed to be here. Right. So it's scary to play somebody that has nothing to lose. And Joe Flacco has nothing to lose.
That is true. I think they will beat whoever comes out of the AFC South. I think after that, I'd have a hard time picking them. And then, with these other teams, I mean, look, Miami, what is the draw? If Miami's at home, I think they'll win a game or two. If they have to go to Arrowhead, I think that's tough. Any team going there in the playoffs, that's a tough spot. I think, Kansas City and Buffalo to me are the same team. And in terms of I could see them losing in the first round of the playoffs, and I could see them find their way to the Super Bowl. But I wouldn't bet on either one of them. So
but I give Buffalo at least over Kansas City a slight edge that they can be explosive offensively. They can be. Whereas I don't know if Kansas City has it in them at all.
I don't think they can.
Unless they can get some turnovers and have some short fields or something. But this year, I don't know what it is, bro. That offense is just too discombobulated.
No, I agree. I don't think they have the explosiveness. The reason I think they're about on par with Buffalo, though, is I think Buffalo also, especially in the playoffs, has shown they can beat themselves in a way that even though the Chiefs have done that a lot the regular season, I just trust the Chiefs in a playoff game more than I trust Buffalo. Buffalo's had a history of they almost lost to Skylar Thompson.
I know.
I mean, this is a team that that's why Sunday night, and we'll leave it at anything's in play for me. I'm picking the Bills, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins blew them out. I really wouldn't be. I could see a scenario where Allen just throws 3 interceptions in this game and they go home. I mean, it's a weird team. And I do think they get more shine a lot of times than they necessarily deserve. They're 10-6. They've mangled half their games this year, including the last month. And people are they're unstoppable. They're going to the Super Bowl. And you're they barely beat New England, who had 4 turnovers in the first half. It's just they're a weird team. It's very strange.
Yeah. And Skyler, if his head coach knew the downs, he might have ended up winning that one. All right, what do you got going on Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out?
Yeah, so we're gonna have all the same stuff this week as normal: quarterback rankings, matchup to watch, film study, so on and so forth. My running column on Sunday, but then we're also gonna have starting very early next week team grades. For the off season, I'm writing a piece right now on the officiating, talking to a lot of people in the league for it. That'll be out, I believe, next week, right before the playoffs start. So I'm going to have plenty of bylines. So if you want to go and check them out, go ahead. Go check them out on SI.com or on Twitter at my handle.
Good stuff. And follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, as always, appreciate you, my brother. We'll catch up next week.
You got it. Take care. You too.
Got it. There you go. Matt Verderame.
This is the Big O Show.